You know what bothers me the most, Gil, about obviously this was your team, the Commanders, and the Zach Ertz play where the spot on Monday night with the first down, where he apparently didn't get it, but we don't really know definitively. The thing that bothers me the most is not the NFL trying to convince us that they've got this new technology, which really does nothing because it's only based upon the spot matters, and that's the referees are doing that with their own eyes and using no technology. What really bothers me is that the person making that spot is standing at the line of scrimmage for the play. How do we not pay a little bit more money out of the kitty, maybe all these ridiculous player fines that we assess each week? We can afford to hire an extra referee who stands at the line to gain the first down line and helps determine the spot at that point. Like, just have somebody stand there. Why do we have to have a guy 10 yards behind the play?
It's so
trying to guess where the guy went down. It doesn't make any sense at all.
I love when the two guys run in and they're so wildly off from each other. Like, it's like a yard and a half off, and they have to like veer diagonally to meet. It's like, this is how straight lines work.
Todd Duishnev calls it the diagonal spotting. Yeah. And the other thing that they do now is when they go to the Hawkeye for this, after a human has spotted it, which is just insane. They have a guy, I don't know if you noticed this, like one of the officials stands over the ball like they're guarding the Mona Lisa at that point. Like, we can't have anybody move this even a millimeter because a human, spotted it, just like on every other play.
Warren, you, for the costume, you're going to need like a tape measure and just write on it like virtual measure or something like that. That'd be a good one.
That's a good point, Kelly. That's a great point. I need to add that. We can still have an index card, but we won't really need to use that this year. We'll write virtual measurement on it instead. I mean, it's just so silly with how much is invested in this league and how important these calls are as it relates to first downs, to not really have any true clue as to whether or not these guys are getting to the line to gain or not. It happens once or twice a game at a minimum where something is super close like that. Why do you not have a guy just standing in the line of scrimmage? I don't know. Frustrating.
Silly is exactly the word to describe it. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of these Week 9 games. We've been talking about this Colts-Steelers game. I'm on the Colts. I'm curious what you have to say about this.
Look, I realize that Mike Tomlin's defense has been embarrassed for 2 straight weeks, and I realize that this is typically the spot that Mike Tomlin should be able to correct some things. But what we should have learned, if we've been studying the league long enough, is that Mike Tomlin's defense can have success against bad offensive play callers and bad quarterbacks. But when he goes up against a good offensive-minded play caller, which I do believe that they've got in Shane Steichen. If you go back and look at the results for the Philadelphia Eagles in the first half of games when Shane Steichen was calling plays his last year there, if you look at what Shane Steichen was even able to do with Anthony Richardson in the first half of games, in the first quarter of games, or the prior couple of years, and then certainly now with Daniel Jones, you will find somebody who's great at scripting plays, who's great at calling plays early on in games and attacking the weakness of opponents. There's 2 aspects to calling good plays: playing to your team's strengths, but also attacking weaknesses of opponents. And Mike Tomlin just sits back defensively and says, this is who we are. This is what we need to be. And, Mike Tomlin is going to be perfectly happy. Gil, you could probably anticipate where I'm going with this. He's going to be perfectly happy saying, we held Jonathan Taylor to 3.9 yards per carry and 79 yards rushing, even at the result of Daniel Jones throwing for 3 touchdowns and 325 yards against his defense and his team losing by 13 points. I mean, Mike Tomlin's going to claim that a victory. And the fact that he came out after the game last week and said, well, we lost this game, but the reality was we settled for too many field goals. Our offense needs to be a little bit better. And we also weren't that good on early downs offensively. We need to improve there as well. It's like, you're allowed over 30 points in 2 straight weeks defensively. And whether or not Mike Tomlin calls the defense or his defense coordinator calls it, we all know that it is a defensive-minded head coach. You are helping craft the tactics, the strategy, and what you're going to use that week against an opponent. You might not call every single little play that's out there, but structurally, schematically, and how you're going to attack that opposing offense, you are heavily involved in all of those decisions. And of course, everything that happens is under your watch. So some people are deflecting the Mike Tomlin criticism, blaming it on his defensive coordinator, but it really does come back to Mike Tomlin himself. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to play, but I do know this. there is a lot of similarity this season with the way that Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts play offense to the way that the Green Bay Packers play offense. Both teams are extremely good. Both quarterbacks have done really well this year against blitzes. And Mike Tomlin knew heading into the game that Jordan Love was the best quarterback in the NFL against blitzes. And you know what Mike Tomlin did anyways on Sunday Night Football? He sent his highest blitz rate of the entire season at Jordan Love. And you know what Jordan Love did in return?
Crushed.
3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and over 12 yards per attempt against the blitz. I expect Mike Tomlin to come into this game the old style that he is, thinking we got to stop Jonathan Taylor and we got to get after Daniel Jones once we stop Jonathan Taylor. And I don't expect anything other than man coverage, lots of blitzing, and trying to crowd the box. And I do expect that Daniel Jones is going to use a lot of play action and throw the ball over top of all of that. And if he hits on some of those passes, which he's been doing so far this year, it's going to be a long afternoon for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, just like it was the last 2 weeks with this predictable style of defensive play calling and game planning.
It's funny you say that, because every time I say I'm on the Colts -3, I go, I was on the Packers -3 at Pittsburgh last week too. I don't understand why the Steelers are getting this kind of respect and why that spread remains the same after what we saw from the Steelers last week. Let's talk about Thursday night.
Well, one other thing real quick, Gill. One thing before we get to Thursday, I just want to mention that we knew going into this, if you say, why is the line like this? Well, the Steelers' record is still a positive record. And the only reason the Steelers' record is positive is because their early season schedule was a cakewalk. And then the last part of their schedule is one of the hardest in the NFL. And that's the same way that it was last year, where they had a much more difficult schedule down the stretch. And everybody's like, oh, I wonder why the Steelers are falling apart. It's because the schedule got significantly more difficult. And that's the same exact thing that's going to be happening here when you're looking at, I'm looking at the graphic there, the Colts and the Bills and the Ravens and the Lions and the Chargers are all upcoming opponents for this team after having played some easier opponents to start the year.
Competition matters. We say it all the time here. What about tomorrow night? Ravens and the Dolphins. Pretty interesting game given where the Ravens are, not only with their injury situation and who they're getting back, but also with the fact that they don't have much margin for error the rest of the way.
They absolutely do not, and they're approaching it the right way from the perspective that every game is almost like a playoff game for them. You do believe, though, that with Lamar Jackson behind center, the run game should improve dramatically. And if the run game improves dramatically with Derrick Henry having more success on the ground, they should be able to move the football against this Miami Dolphins defense. Now, I understand the Miami Dolphins run defense has been playing a little bit better of late. I still don't quite understand, Gil, what happened in that Atlanta Falcons Miami Dolphins game the other week, like last week. I still don't understand how Kirk Cousins played that horribly. The offensive play calling was that bad. Who knew that Kadarius Hodge would be getting 8 targets? I mean, where has he been all season? And all of a sudden, that's the number one target of Kirk Cousins at the receiver spot, is just throw the ball to Kadarius Hodge left and right. But in any case, I'm thinking that the Baltimore Ravens are going to come out, try to play good defense and run the football. I think it's going to be an exciting game. The one thing that I would normally worry about is the man blitzes that the Miami Dolphins are going to use and use at pretty high rates against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But here's one thing. The Baltimore Ravens, and this I wrote about this in the book this past offseason, and it was an issue for the past couple of years. Lamar versus the man blitzes. Pay close attention to how Lamar handles the man blitzes. I will tell you this much. He's been significantly better.
Warren, appreciate it as always.
Thanks for watching, but don't let the betting insights end here. If you want an extra edge this football season, you can get a month of VSiN Pro right now absolutely free. That means access to our betting insights, analysis, and tools like our betting splits at zero cost to you. Click the link in the description to sign up.